Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. You should be able to hear me. We've just gone live with the first ever School for Startups Romania mentoring event. I'm assuming that all 69 people, some things on the chat that make it seem like it. If you're having any issues, and if you're finding that, for example, you're not yet in the event, but you're really no worries. In fact, one of the first questions somebody sent me was, what happens if I can't make this call? We are trying, it's on the word trying, to record this and have the whole thing edited and waiting for you, so that if there is somebody you know, we'll post this on the wall inside the forum, that if you can't get to it, this will be alive, available. So, this is going to be a little... I just want to walk everyone through what's happening here. Some of you may find it quite obvious. In the bottom left, coming on, for those of you who are... The only way to get a tweet onto that screen is to use the hashtag S4S_RO, and that will then pop it up in the Twitter module. On the right-hand side, a few of you clearly understand quite well, since I can see you, are chatting away. Anybody can chat there. Feel free to chat. Nancy is there, and Nancy, who is the primary supporter in our forum, the head editor of School for Startups, and the leader of our review team for business plans, is going to be talking to you through that, and you guys can have side conversations. We also have some questions lined up, but the fact of the matter is the purpose you may have submitted questions before. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the way this call was set up, they disappeared. So if you would did them before today, I would very much appreciate it. Also, I'm really eager to try to do a video call with somebody from Romania, so one of you has to step up and try. So if you could please go ahead and ask questions, that would be very valuable. Now we have some questions coming through, and I'll get to them in a moment. Also, Marius should be around. I believe he's probably floating in the background right now. And if he is, then we'll log him in. If he's not, when he comes online, we'll log him in. And what else did I want to say before we get started? Oh, on video. What you're going to find is that the first thing that will happen is Megan, one of the producers, will speak to you to test your fidelity. And then if your question is selected to put it online, it'll go into the speaker's slot. You can always post questions as text messages, comments, and chat. The wall inside the forum, so we can answer any other questions you might have. Right, so let's get going. So is it okay if I send the assignment in by 8 p.m.? I'm finishing the forecast. I'm not aware that there was a specific time today it had to be in by, so you can then send it in all the way up to 11:59 p.m. and it's still March 8th. And for somebody else to get it in, then point one is we still want your business plan whenever you get it written. The big deal of today is if you get it in by midnight today, then we can get that one of the business students or master's finance students who are working with us will review incomplete the entire, all 8 of them will be with us in Bucharest and Cluj in March, and so you'll be able to meet them, and the business plans that are submitted will form part of the live review, or some of them will at least. So obviously I think there's a lot of reason why you'd want to get it in something short and not particularly complete today. Yes, 23:59 EET, Romanian.
So I'd rather you submitted something short than not.
So I'd rather you submitted something short than not at all. I think that answers that question. So, next question. How do I find an expert in human resources for my business? Good question. That's Catalan.
There's actually two answers to that.
There's actually two answers to that. One of the answers that we will have a human resources expert available on the forum. Her name is Sue Barlow, and she'll be joining us sometimes. And someone named resources expert, and it was noticed in the chat on the bottom right-hand corner, yourself forward as a human resources expert. So Catalan, let me introduce you to Teo. Teo, let me introduce you to Catalan. You two should make a message, and there you go. Expert in human resources for your business. Meanwhile, Catalan, if you want, you can post questions in the forum. Nancy will save them. And if Nancy can't answer it, then Sue Barlow certainly will time during the course of the year. We also have a finance expert, experts. Right. You ready for another question? Guys, nobody's submitting questions, which is very odd, actually. I would have thought you'd had some questions about your stuff. So I literally have no questions here. I have 80 questions. So I am uncomfortable with that. And the advantage, reach into the audience.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be more questions by 23:59.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be more questions by 23:59. Even though you didn't do it in the right place, Mihai Irimia, can we also receive an example of a business plan made by an expert?
No, I'm very much not terribly comfortable with expert business plan. A few days ago, Nancy posted on the forum wall a bit of an outline of how you should approach the business plan writing process.
I'll have after this call, and you can go ahead and take a look at what she wrote. But at the end of the day, what I want you to do is I want you to answer. You do the cash flow, you'll have met my expectations. You don't have to do more than that. So if you guys can do that, that would be fine. Once you've got it submitted, this is not a done thing. You will absolutely be expected, and I hope you'll continue to work on your business plan over the course of the year. Business plans are not a fixed document. It's just a starter document. As your business evolves, it'll change. If for no other reason, it's going to change because it's going to have to get better. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be giving you rather extensive feedback. So unless you just overwhelm, it's quite possible to get enough feedback. You'll have to keep working on it. Right, more questions. You ready to? All right, so we're a little backed up on a question here, but soon we will have questions ready to go. There's a question approved here, so why don't we, we'll put it up in a moment. It's for a startup, when creating the cash flow, how can you make accurate assumptions of the sales, which will get posted up to screen in a second. That's from somebody whose name is almost pronounced Marcia Capatina. I apologize now for the way I just pronounced your name. First,
how can you improve your forecast?
How can you improve your forecast? So let's assume that most of the guesses, there's two types of guesses that you have to make. One type of guess is what I would call a cost guess. You have to estimate the cost of an activity. Now let's imagine what kind of cost you may encounter. So you may have to encounter the cost of, say, renting an office. All you do is go out into the area you're in and find out what the kind of office you might expect to rent would ought to cost today in place. So my point being that it's easy to determine costs. It's easy to get pricing on the cost of, say, the building of a product. One of the things I'm going to show you is a bit about a specific website called Alibaba.com that is very good at costing out the construction of products, for example. So when it comes to the cost, when it comes to estimating costs, it tends to be very easy. Now, estimating revenue, what you do is you take every single product, you build a little price for it, the charge for it, this is why I think it is, and if you're really smart, you'll show what other people are charging for the same item, so that when I look at it, I say, right, I can see why you're charging that price. And then what you do is you ask yourself, How many people am I going to reach in the first month? How many people, how long does it take to close an individual sale? And you put in the time frame to close, the number of units you're going to close in each month. And you try to build a logical series of guesses that underpin how you're guessing. So I'm not sure who asked the question, but it's a good question. So just for a moment, guys, I'm not sure what the situation is, but can you post more questions up? I need to? Okay, so hang on, guys. I just need to, I have to take a moment, pause. I don't know how to set Alex Webb to host. So I'm going to have somebody help me set something up. Where do I go? Oh, it's in people. Just so you know it's going on, I'm just making sure that Alex Webb is set up so she can Well, I didn't mean to do that. Well, I didn't mean to do that. Guess what, guys? I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm messing it up. But that's okay. I'm going to go find some other approved questions, and I'm going to go ahead and ask you. Alina Popescu asked the question, for which time frame should we prepare the business plan? Good question, Alina. I think that basically I would have you prepare it for a period of 1 to 2 years. 1 year is the minimum, 2 years is the max. Anything longer than that is a bit unlikely. If you guys are ready, we can take one of the live video questions.
While we're waiting, there's a question here that I'll answer.
How do you feel about Guy Kawasaki's The Art of Start model? Very good, actually. Well-known person in the Valley who is one of the evangelists for Apple, and he has become famous for teaching people how to start businesses, mostly Silicon Valley web-based software businesses. And to be honest, for web-based businesses in software, he's great. But for any type of business, I'm not sure that that would necessarily apply. So I think that if you're in the context of software businesses, that's fine. Everything else, I would ask the question, does it apply to what I'm doing? Right. Okay, let's put another text question up, please. Next question. Right, so I'll take a look and find the next question. For a startup, when creating the cash flow, how can you make accurate assumptions of sales? That's basically the same question as we had before, and so I'm going to assume that that was more or less answered by the earlier one. Next one, how can you be different as a startup online retailer? Excellent question, Nikolai. Online retailing is very difficult. I think actually the question is not how can you be different, but most online e-commerce websites are by definition very similar to one another, and it's very subtle, the differences. A very good friend of mine started a company in the hotel 2004, and he was the 16th company to set up doing hotel online booking. And even though he was the 16th, even though they were essentially identical, he ended up taking over the whole industry over a period of 4 years and selling to Priceline for £150 million. The reason he was successful is instead of saying how can we make the experience better for the customer every single day. One of the great things about doing e-commerce on the web is you can make small changes continuously, and every day you should wake up and say, how can we do better, how can we do better? This requires analysis. You have to look at people, how many people are coming to the site, and you have to think of it as a journey that they go along. So they start at one point, they move along to another point, and at every step of the way you want to see where they drop out. Do they go from one page to another and then disappear? Why do they disappear? And you can test it. There's something called A/B testing. A/B testing is where you set up your website so that one person on one gets one page and one person gets a slightly different page, and you can see which page improves their experience by just testing it. Whichever page leads more people to the desired outcome is the one you then put up, and you move on and test something else. This is how Amazon has tested all of their features over the years, and it's of course had the biggest impact. If you're doing online retailing in particular, there's a number of very specific things that you can do. First, photos and more photos. Small, clear, multiple photos of a product, small video testimonials, nice clean text talking about what the product does, all increase the likelihood that that product is going to sell. We have a live call. Well, here we go. We'll see how it works.
Right, Ovia, how are you?
Right, Ovia, how are you? You're live. You're talking to me.
And I'm the first call from Romania.
You are the first one.
You are the first one.
Yeah, can you hear me? Everything okay?
I can hear you just fine. Just speak
I can
loud
hear
and
you
slow
just
and go
fine.
ahead.
Just speak loud and slow and go ahead and ask your question.
My question is specific, just as you like. I'm in consulting business, and my cash flow is something very flat regarding the costs part. I mean, every month I have the same cost, nothing going on. I have the rent, I have the calls, I have the internet, maybe some traveling, and it doesn't vary very much. You know, it doesn't go up and down too much. And my question is, how realistic is this cash flow from seminars attended, some bills for school for startups to pay, but in the rest I don't really have many other costs. How realistic is this provision of the cost?
Right. Well, thank you very much for the question.
Right. Well, thank you very much for the question. Just because the video here is kind of has latency, we're going to switch back to single screen now, and we're going to switch back to single screen now. Going away, you'll still be on audio, not that single screen, you guys, me.
But Elvia, the whole world can see you.
But Elvia, the whole world can see you. I hope you're enjoying it. Hang on, Elvia. There you go. So, first of all, I presume you can still hear me. Just say, talk, and tell me if you can.
Right. So to go back to the question that you
Right.
asked.
So to go back to the question that you asked.
What I'm assuming
you're saying is that your costs don't change. But the interesting question is do your revenues grow? And if your revenues are growing over time and you're in a consulting business, then there's something wrong if your costs don't grow. Because there's a limiting factor on consulting, and that's how much time you or another consultant has. Once you've reached the total amount of time that you have, then you have no more capacity. You'll have to add another consultant, and that would increase your costs. So you have something that are known as semi-variable costs. Some costs go up in line with sales. For consultancy, that doesn't happen. For consultancy, costs go up like a set of stairs. Every time you add a consultant, you have a new amount of capacity, which you then, how is it revenues are going up if without you increasing the cost of adding new consultants?
Okay, provision. So maybe in the next year the revenue will be 20-25%. That I will have to colleague, or we don't have to hire another person. So probably thinking about to add another people, or maybe have some advertising costs, would probably go for a longer period of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, as the plan are right now for us.
Well, to be honest, then your costs should not really go
up if you're not adding capacity. The only real question is at what point will you max out on the amount of time you've got available to increase revenue, because at some point you will fill up on time, and that will be a constraint on your business. Okay, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to move on to the next question. Do we have another text? Bye. By the way, it was fun having you. Another call. Okay, guys. I think this is Arena.
There you go. We lost her.
There you are. Whoops, we lost her. We almost had you, Irina, for like 2 whole seconds, and you disappeared. So go ahead and try again, and we'll try again with you. Meanwhile, let's put another text question up. Next question? All right, so I'll find a question.
The next question is, how can we set up a price for a product?
The next question is, how can we set up a price for a product which doesn't have a real market competitor? Well, now, that always makes me suspicious. There's two things. First, meaning you don't have somebody who is directly setting up a product that is in direct competition with you. So, what I would there's 2 ways to do it. First of all, your product, presumably, Cornell, solves a problem. And whatever problem it solves is a problem that has a cost to the customer.
How much money you will save.
So what you need to do is estimate or how much money you will make the customer in the alternative. If you make them $100 or 100 euros, then I'll be lower than that. I just noticed, Cornell, you said it's a product that offers information measured. First, no product, if it's of use to people, can't be measured. Even information has some value. People don't buy information. They buy information to use it for some reason. And whatever use they put at it, by decreasing risk. But the fact is, if it's just information, if it's of no use, then they're not going to buy it. If it's of specific use, then it should be something that you can figure out what use it's being put to. And so I don't actually accept the notion that it can't be measured. Ultimately, everything can be measured to one degree or another.
You guys want to put up the next question?
You guys want to put up the next question, or shall I just grab one?
Right. How can you use the development of a
company if on the first step of it you don't have so much money? I'm sorry, what was that question?
Can you put it back up there?
Can you put it back up, guys, or no?
I think it was, how do you grow your company without cash?
I think it was, how do you grow your company without cash?
So I'll answer that question.
I'll answer that question.
The biggest challenge is starting any business.
The biggest challenge is starting any business is what you, and without a doubt, some businesses require cash. I don't have a quick answer for exactly details of the business, but there are things you can do that don't require money. And the things you can do that get the business started on very limited cash, then we'll show you a way to do it.
You need to put into your business plan showing how far you can
work in the abstract. You need to put into your business plan there. So
I'm not going
to try to answer that question here because I'm in a position to, but I will make it a part of the business plan review. So, next question up.
For an existing business,
is it okay to use the undergoing contracts in the cash flow? You have a business that is expected to be a realistic representation of your business. Therefore, business that you've already got coming in should be in your cash flow if you expect that those contracts will continue going forward over the next year or two. I don't want a fake cash flow. I want to see an actual cash flow. So what I'm looking for here is the actual cash flow that you've already got. Next question, please.
Yeah, I know there's an annoying echo.
Yeah, I know there's an annoying echo. Don't worry, I've got it too. Anybody know why we have an echo? I think it's because one of your computers is picking up, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, that would be it.
You guys.
No, it's you guys. I can hear you from here. It's when you joined. Just so you know. Sorry, guys, we're having an internal discussion about video. Next question. How can I write a business plan? Well, now, you did actually sit through 2 days of me going through those questions. So you would think, actually, that you have some sense of how to answer them.
I
would have thought that there must be some way you could take a shot at that. I'm not sure how to answer that, Mihai.
right now.
In
what
the
your
chat
business
section,
is about.
type in for me right now what your business is about.
And where's the echo option, Manuel? Yeah, you, huh?
Yeah.
I'm talking to the two
I'm talking to the two
that
people.
window.
That window.
And
And then
it's about art. Now that's the shortest.
it's
answer
about
I've ever
art. Now that's the shortest answer I've ever
Right, to
been
Mihai,
given.
what you need to do.
All right, so Mihai, what you need to
go off,
do,
you need to be able to write a single sentence.
you need to go off and you need to be able to write a single sentence
The benefit of my
like this.
business to
The benefit of my
customer
business to my customer is.
Mario
And then I want
said
you to
YouTube.
fill it. I suggest that you two turn off your microphones completely. It's the
I
my
think you're
computer
right.
system.
Right. It worked. Whatever you just did worked. Perfect. There should now be no echo. Not just words. Right. Next question, please. And it's not perfect today. What should I do when an employee fails repeatedly but he has good potential? Well, if there's a complicated question. I guess the short answer to that question is if somebody has potential, you must have seen something in them in the first instance that caused you to think that they were of value. All I would suggest in that instance is if you've got that potential in front of you, then you need to give them narrower and narrower tasks so that they only work on the areas in which they have potential. If in fact they can't even do the narrower task that's directly tied to their potential, then you should measure. You say, okay, I'm going to give you a narrower responsibility. So the first step of this would be, sorry, I'm ordering my thoughts and thinking out loud. The first step would be, sit down with them and do an honest review and say, right now you're failing, and you have the following potential. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an assignment that is only within your potential. After a period of time, whether it's a day, a week, a month, depending on how long that responsibility lasts, you have to review it. If they fail it,
then you have to sit down and say, okay, why did you fail it? You either have a choice at that point. You can either say to them, you failed it, and then we're going to try again.
Put them on notice, or put on warning and say, if you continue to fail, then at some point we're going to have
Or
to let you go.
you have to put them on notice. You have to put on warning, and at some point we're going to have to let you go.
Let's move on to the next question. This one does-
I'm afraid that's not the next question. Is this?
Okay, so I'm going to put up a text question. Marius, I know you've been sitting there patiently. Adrian
Is that what you're
asked,
telling
how
me?
do you- I don't know. what
Okay, so I'm going to put up a text question. Marius, I know you've been sitting there patiently. Adrian asked, I don't know what Adrian
How
asked.
can it affect my business?
No, that's a different one. Okay, the Romanian
Marius, over to you. Hello, Marius.
business. Well, I'm hoping, Marius, that you can answer that because I don't even know what
I'm
it
gonna
means.
jump off screen.
Hi, Doc.
Marius, over to
Can you
you.
hear me?
It's all you, Marius.
Now,
It's all you. It should have been all you.
it's all you, Marius.
Did you get the
Okay,
question?
it's all me now.
The question was something
Did you
about
get the
HR
question?
leasing and how it
Trying
affects the
to-
company.
The question was
Okay.
something about HR leasing
Certainly, there
and how it
there are
affects the
bit
company.
of the problems of needing to hire or fire on a short term. To use, particularly when you are at the start of the business, but then you need to take care of the costs and also the kind of service that is provided. If it's beginning So
Right, Marius, thank you very much. We're going to try and ask another question. Next question up, folks.
Right, Marius, thank you very much.
The next question is,
We're going to try and ask another question.
A comparison. My company
Next question is it okay? My company versus competition was made in 2009.
Can you send a comparison of your
Not sure I understand the
2009. It's a little old, but sure. Is there? I think what you should do is also put the notes in the
it's a little old, but
what else has happened.
Sure. Is there? They're describing, you know, what else has happened since then, and how they've improved or you've improved.
Next question.
And Adrian,
Lauren, apparently we skipped yours too.
why? Go ahead and post it again. Next question.
How can I find out if my business idea is a need?
Lauren, apparently we skipped yours too, not intentionally.
I think it's very much like what I was talking about in the day. Item one is you want to go and talk directly to a potential customer. In fact, you want to talk to a potential customer.
Talking about
and see what
in
they
the
say.
day.
So,
Item one, the
I started Library House, which was a company has started here in Cambridge. The first thing I did was I wanted to sell stuff to VCs.
was
I wanted to talk to about 20 VCs about what we were planning on doing. The fact that is, this had two benefits.
wanted to
One, it put me in a
sell stuff
position where I could assess
to
the
VCs.
value of the
I went-
service. But also, it was a very nice disguised way of me. Sorry, I'm picking up my mic because I have an echo in there. I presume it's
talked to about 20 VCs about what
the two values that talking prospective customers have is, on the one hand, it permits you to get a feel for
we were planning on doing.
the potential of the product. On the other hand, it also has the potential to essentially
The fact of the matter is, this had where
so it gives you a chance to essentially sell before you become the company. And you now have ongoing live relationships with people who will frequently say things like, well, if you do this, this, and this, then I would buy it. And of course, what you're thinking is, right, so all I got to do now is figure out how to do this, this, and this. And, then
and of course, what you're thinking is,
this, this, and this, and now you're in a position.
right, so what I got to do now is
So the rule, it's all about talking to the prospective.
figure out how to do this, this, and this, and then when you go back to them, you say, oh, I did this, this, and this, and now you're in a position to sell that
Go ahead. How do you estimate the cost of
to
sale of
them.
a service?
But as a
Good question.
rule, it's all about talking to the prospective customer.
Cost of sale usually are only
Costs of sale usually are only tied to the specific
So let's imagine, for example, you're a consultant.
selling a specific product. So let's imagine, for example, you do your
There's no actual cost of sale for that, except
people
for the cost of your time, and
for that,
salary,
except
that's a flat overhead, and any specific costs that attach to that sale, which would be very, very low, to be honest. So the only thing that would be there would be the cost of
so that's a
travel,
flat
or how much
overhead,
you're buying yourself
and
off
any
the
specific costs that attach to that sale, which would be very, very low, to be honest. So the only things
sale, then chances are you won't have any cost of sale percent.
that would be there would be the cost of travel. Basically, in the case where your service doesn't have any unique cost of sale, then chances are you won't have any cost of sale. In 2010 crisis.
It's not very different than what the woman
That's a funny question because it's not very different than what the woman who was on the Big O,
but basically she said
her prior result. But Basically, she said that they'd had very bad years, and the coach didn't want to show him the results because she thought he would take the wrong basis for
however much 2009 and 2010
particular note to me on
2011 could be a crisis too.
10-word crises. 2000 for all
they're all crisis years.
they're all crisis years. On a side note, the larger question of if you've got a year in 2009, 2010 that you feel is somehow exceptional, different, not normal, and you then forecast from them, but you increased or changed the sales in a big, precise and explaining somewhere in your spreadsheet what has changed. So something has to change, something has to improve, something has to be different. It can't just be, oh, I think the world is going to get better. Also,
it's a new business ecosystem, and therefore you might assume your first 3 years are all special years, and that everything is going to be a bit exceptional.
Ecosystem, and therefore you might assume that your first 3 years are all special years, and that everything is going to be a bit exceptional in your early years. It's generally been the case for. We're going to move to a video call. So I'm going to put my earphones back in, and let's go ahead and get something from Richard. Hello, Richard.
In your small office, essentially, how do you streamline your office expenses? Do we have very innovative or effective ways in which you can streamline a very small office that
Right, so just make sure I understand the question. I'm just going to repeat it back to you.
your operational expenses?
You're running a small office, or basically a virtual office. I presume you're working from home, and you're treating your office as a virtual activity?
A virtual office. I presume you're working from home, and you're treating your office as a virtual activity? Okay, so it's very interesting.
Yes,
I'm going to have a switch.
The whole idea is you're using,
Back to one.
making a
Go ahead,
sort
Richard.
of you have a payment system, okay, where you receive information from clients and make and process payments through to bank. You take charge of your.
So Richard, just for the efficiency of video, I'm going to turn back to one screen here, but you'll still be on audio, so be careful
Office
what you say.
expenses in order that it does not get
right. So what Richard's asking is about how do you streamline office expenses, basically
On audio, so be careful what you say.
I think the first thing to do
Right, so what Richard's asking is about how do you assuming
that it'll be a lower cost. So if you hire on, say, I'll just pick some example. Let's say you hire on an office administrator.
that it'll be a lower cost. So if you hire on, say,
I'll use dollars, as a full-time
I'll just pick something example. Let's say you hire on an office administrator, and that office administrator has a full-time salary. I'll use dollars because I think in dollars. Has a full-time salary of
because you're hiring them as a contractor. At first glance, you might
$20,000 a year. But if you hired somebody part-time, full-time is lower.
You may only use them 20% of the time, and therefore you don't use them for $7,000.
First days on it.
20% of $35,000. So in fact,
$7,000 worth, i.e., 20. Pay more for the part-time. Your absolute actual cash costs are lower. Also, if you can get used people only when you need them, you can tie revenue to cost. So that
even though it costs more to use somebody from the outside in the early days,
even though it costs more
the actual cash costs are lower because you use less of them. Does that answer your question?
to use somebody from the outside in the early days, in the long run, the
Sure. Thank you for being
actual
brave
cash
and go on
cost
video. Right. We're going to move on. Goodbye, Richard.
costs are lower because you use less
Next
of
question.
them. Next question.
Do you think it's important to have
Question.
business
Someone?
mentors? How can we find them?
Do you
I do think it's important to have business mentors, actually. Sorry, the echoes driving me crazy.
mentors?
I
How
think
can you
business
find
mentors
them?
are not easily found. I think that you have to actually understand the role of a business mentor. And
I do think it's important to have a business mentor. Role of
Let's start with the definition. A business mentor is a term people use for somebody who helps you by giving you advice about
why they mentor at all. So let's start with the definition. A business mentor is helps you by giving you advice about your business and support for your business. And they don't necessarily their primary role is to be your advisor, to help you out with questions when questions arise. In many ways, this entire forum that we're in, both the online forum, this is what it looks like when you're doing it, and the questions you have should be answerable, hopefully, by the business mentor, who is specific.
And you can get along with them. And they've got the time to support you.
And you can get along with this
relationship with that person, so they know why you're there and you know why they're there. Then yes, I think a business mentorship is great.
For that person, so they know business mentorship.
I also think everyone should be honest up front and say, okay, we're going to try this out for a period of time, and we'll see how it goes. It's been my experience.
Try this out for a period of time.
Sometimes don't necessarily work out.
And we'll see how it goes. In my experience, even the greatest potential mentors sometimes don't necessarily work out, and the best way to agree on it is just to have a short relationship. You then potentially have a longer relationship.
My idea for business is a biomass farm, and business plan must be at least 3 to 5 years to get it there. Absolutely.
Next question.
I believe actually the last year.
My idea for a
event. And yes, Ness is here, and Marius is sitting in Romania, so it'll be very
problem. I agree with you completely, and I believe you actually. Vlad, you actually stood up in the event.
Are both of your speakers turned off as well? Okay, so who knows? I think the system loves my voice so much, just keeps on wanting to repeat it. Right, going back to the biomass farm. Largely speaking,
voice so much just
it requires a certain period of time to reach critical mass. It's going 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and yes, you're going to have to show me that business model.
Largely speaking, anything that will reach critical mass is going 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 3 years, 7 years. Then yes, you're going to have to show me that business model. The reason I was focusing on one to be upset if they don't feel comfortable that they will.
If I can afford it, is it okay to admit a loss in the first year business plan in an online project?
Let's move on to the next question.
Oh, guys. Everyone should know that not only okay, it's absolutely required. If your business is going to show a loss, don't show a loss.
The fact of the matter is, there's nothing wrong with showing a loss. That's just what happens during a period. Most of my businesses made a loss before they made profit.
Marius, would you like to pick up this?
In fact, Marius just points out, thank you, Marius, the break even is longer than a year in most online businesses. Marius, would you like to?
And I think what's important is not to recognize that loss in the first year, but to be very careful with the cash flow plan so that it provides the inception of the business even point. You need to allow for the cash to
Marius, thank you very much.
Finance.
Right, we're now going to switch over to The next question, I believe it's a video question. It's from Lee. Ah, you came back, Lee. No, we lost you again. But I can see her.
You came back, Rena. No, we lost you again.
Hello, Rena. Nope. I can hear you, Rena, so start talking.
But I can see her. Can
He's quite visible now.
we get her?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, apparently I'm invisible
Nope.
today.
Here.
Hi. And my question to launch an event in order to launch my business idea and a success. How can I for startup business like?
So what sort of stupid, what things are you thinking about that you think might be stupid?
So what sort of stupid what things are you thinking about that you think might be stupid?
Someone that it's not necessarily needed in the first stages of a business.
I wouldn't hire anybody unless you already have things you need them to do that are not getting done. And if you've got things that need to be done that aren't getting done, then I would hire them on contract or part-time if possible, so you can get rid of them again on short notice. And as
You already have things, as
real simple. I never buy anything that
it's real simple. I never buy anything that I haven't already got a demand
So I'm not exactly sure what you're thinking.
for. I don't,
If you want
and
to send over some questions
I'm
directly
cheaper
offline of purchasing
than anybody, I
and
promise.
considering anything that you're not sure that it's worthwhile, feel free to do it, okay? I think it's a no-brainer. I would outsource for as long as you possibly can.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Equipment is a big investment. And the challenge is, you can buy, for example, if your equipment...
I would outsource for as long as you possibly
don't
can.
have enough hard-cutting revenue coming in.
And example, equipment to
You only have enough hard-cutting revenue coming in.
cut cards, but you
I
probably
would outsource for quite a long time. The business is up and running steadily. And then...
need to cover the first job. So I would
offer the greatest
outsource for quite a long, and then look at which of the activities you're doing offer the greatest profit right in the beginning.
So that means I have to start looking for
I
trustworthy
don't think
people.
so, that's right.
Because I've had some problems with people delivering the product on time
I think
and
you're gonna have
at
that issue, that's right.
some specific quality terms.
But the alternative...
Have that issue, that's right.
No problem.
It seems to be a problem.
I think we'll move on to the next question, and off we go. Next question.
No problem. And
It's Daniel. Daniel, I believe I have you on audio only.
it's Daniel. Daniel?
Yes. Hello?
Hi. Hi.
Yes, I can
Hi.
hear you.
Hi. Are you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. My question is what can I do if I have a client that doesn't pay me at time? Client every month when he should pay me, he tells me that he don't have money because his clients didn't pay him, and I have to understand him every time. It's a good client for me. Finally, he gives me the money, but every time he gives me the money late. Unpleasant for me because I don't have the money in the right time.
Well, I think there's 3 points to be made here. And then Marius, I'll go...
Then Marius, I was wondering if you could chip in after I've made my thoughts.
Talking about a
If I understand correctly, you're talking about a cash flow issue. You're talking about an issue,
Yes, yes,
an
this
issue
is
where you get the money,
Yes.
but you don't get it in the end for the money.
Well, the first thing you can do is you can start.
There's a few things to do. The first thing you start reducing his credit. I mean, it depends how important he is to you as a customer. So if I have a customer who repeatedly doesn't pay on time, then I say things like okay, 90 days. So I'll let you pay this time on credit. If you don't credit, you pay for partial service. Put a deposit down. That sometimes works support you are to him.
How important are you?
How important are you to him?
It's an important client. It's not the most important client, but in this time it's very uncomfortable because every time I have to deal with the same problem. He doesn't pay me on time and I have to pick some other money from outside to manage the things. I need the money to pay my employees, but if he doesn't give me the money, I have to get the money from other side, and to do that
Right.
every time, every month.
Daniel, actually, you answered
Right.
the question.
Daniel, the question I asked. You answered the question. How important? I asked the question. How important are you to him?
I'm not very important for him. I'm probably not in the. I'm not his main problem.
I understand.
This is for sure. I'm not very important to him.
So I'm going to let Marius step in.
Hi, Daniel. And
Hello, Marius.
The question is mainly a question of cash flow, right?
Yes.
As Guy Kawasaki very well says in The Art of the Start, when you start the business, you have to plan for cash flow rather than for profit. And if I suggest that you need to have a honest, candid talk, but with the very person that decides on
or the CEO or somebody else,
the purchase manager, for instance.
I understand.
From them, try to find from them very honestly, very sincerely, what's their problem in paying late.
And then you can find a solution.
Maybe it's gonna be a
carrot type solution, like
you give them another percent
discount, but
discount, but they have to pay early.
Or you can make another.
Or you can make.
Than saying, okay, I understand. Let's make a factoring on your invoices. You go to the bank, you get a factoring.
Make a
done,
factoring.
There is a small extra cost for you. If this is the problem. If
Cost for you.
cash flow is the problem.
One way or another, if
you can probably sort it out this way.
then you can
Problem of
way.
profitability using
If this were a problem of
the carrot.
I understand.
Applying the penalties that you
then I would
probably
probably suggest using the stick rather than the carrot.
They might be a bit anxious
Probably have in the contract.
to be late again and again.
Right, Marius, I'm gonna jump in.
I understand.
Then
Thank
they
you very
might
much.
be
Right, Marius.
Next question,
Thanks, Marius. Next question.
please. Read Marius on screen, or you?
On screen.
What are your suggestions about being really unique in the market and not easily duplicable?
What are your suggestions about being really unique in the market
Okay, so Adrian,
and
it's a
not
broad question.
easily
It really comes down to
duplicable?
What are you doing? You may remember when I was speaking.
Okay, so
about
Adrian, that's a broad
being
question.
remarkable,
It really
about
comes
how you can extend your solution to your business enterprise. If you're selling to the business
down to what are you
ask
doing?
yourself,
As you may have
once you've done your
remarkable. I was talking about how you can extend.
If you take a look at how Apple approached their product, they didn't stop at the
If you're selling to other businesses,
hardware, they solved
ask yourself, once you've done whatever your
It's always important to know where you
personalization.
customers' problems.
If you take a look at how Apple approached their product, they did a part of the problem. It's always important to know where you feel below that. Can you extend the length of the product to more completely solve a greater problem?
In the UK, one of the things Natalie did is she packaged her products in beautiful packaging. So
If you look at Net-a-Porter in the UK, one of the things Natalie did is she packaged her products in beautiful packaging. So
and it's the small things actually that tend to be most noticeable. It's not necessarily the large things. Let's move on. What did you mean by are we all losers?
Essentially what you've-
Are we all losers is the question that relates to 5 forces from the Michael Porter slides. And you'll find those on the presentation.
Competition.
But just
Are
to
we
remind you, basically, we're now
all losers is the question that relates to the 5 forces from the Michael Porter slides. And you'll find those on the
intense competition.
presentation slides.
Can anyone enter that industry?
But just to remind you,
Supplier
basically, supplier power, a threat of substitution. And those are the things that I discussed in some detail. Firepower example was my friend who had invented was the example of Intel and Windows and Microsoft hollowing out the PC industry. Strong business. Anybody can start one. Intense competition. Well, the best example was the Mandela aroma video, where we looked at competitors. So the question is your industry an industry like that? And if so, what kind of those issues does?
If you are new and unknown manufacturer, how can you approach this
Please.
question?
If you're new,
Good question. One of the things.
good question. One of the things I'm actually not going to answer this today.
On business to business sales.
Spend a half day starting in
Heads up what's coming. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on marketing.
a week and a half on
next event. And one of the sessions, a half day, is business to business selling. And
business to business
how
sales.
you qualify, how you reach new customers, how you qualify them, how you close.
So just so everyone knows,
Next question. How can you estimate a market if it's in its early beginning? That's another good question. So what
Just
they're
give you
look like
heads up
what
with-
they're asking is when you've got a new market
It's coming.
that's forming, either because the product is new or people are doing something new or it's a change how do you estimate
in behavior. It could be anything.
Don't-
You estimate.
What you have to do is you have to show evidence that it's growing.
What you have to do. So if you
Then you're probably
show evidence that it's in a good position, that you don't have to worry about what size it is, so long as it's large enough to support however much sales or
growth or desire or that it's larger than
evidence that of growth
in the same period, then you'll probably have to do something like that. Next.
or of desire.
Family members of business partners, okay or not, why?
Family members as business partners, okay or not, why?
Who are participating in our course.
So I have to be careful.
So I'm not going to say, as a matter of business, that husband and wife teams can't work well together. So, for example, Nancy Fulton, who's our editor out in LA, is part of the Hudson.
They're out in LA.
Has been for many years.
And has been, and they get along just fine.
Another point is some of you may or may not know, Marius is shortly coming out with a book on small business, written in Romanian, which I think is very helpful, and it's an excellent book, and he has an entire chapter in his book on the issues surrounding family relationships and business. Now, I don't know what he said in his book on that one subject, my Romanian book, but I can tell you one thing.
On that one subject, my Romanian
business has been terrible. It's been awful. I have had a terrible time, and it is a remarkable thing that my brother.
My own. It's been awful.
So I have to.
I have had a terrible time, and it is a remarkable thing that my brother and I.
Some people have done better than I. And we're going to move away from the personal and move on to the next question. How can you close a sale on your website if you're providing a service rather than a product? Well, I mean, the fact that if you take an order for anything on a website, if I run a babysitting service, I could put up a tool to let them pick a time, pick a date, agree to a price, put in their credit card, and buy my babysitting for a time in the future. So you don't actually have to have a product you provide. You can be selling them a service.
A product you provide, you can push through e-commerce, then you can sell them anything.
Still struggling with that?
I'm not sure that that's all that difficult, actually. And if you still are struggling with that,
I just also, by the way, everyone, just so you know, we're coming up to the first hour of this call. Most of you are still sticking around, so thank you very much. I know that there's an echo on here. We shall sort that for next time. The system does seem to be working reasonably well otherwise, and I'm also conscious that I have a lot of questions sketched up, so I'm going to try to keep on moving forward through them. So, next question. If you can't sell your product, you should hire an expensive salesman to do it. Is that why? Okay, so I presume this comes out of a conversation that was had offline, Nancy, because we rarely ask questions. First point is, why does the salesman have to be expensive? I love that those are my choices. You can't sell your product. Okay, I've got a million questions for whoever asks this. First of all, why can't you sell your product? You should be the best salesperson in your product. People who tell me they can't sell, I always compare them to Alex in our company. Because everybody knows in our company that Alex couldn't sell her way out of hot water. But, as it happens, when Alex is doing what she loves, which is selling coaching for netball training, she can sell ice to Eskimos. She can sell the socks off of you. So the fact of the matter is, a lot of it has to do with the passion you have for what you do. I am not persuaded that people can't sell their own products, even if they're not natural salespeople, and I think that it's one of the things that we should all discuss. So whomever you are who actually asked this question, I think that if you're uncomfortable selling, we should engage in the discussion on the second morning in March. And if it's business-to-business sales, well, I'm going to walk you through some methods of selling that don't depend on you having a lot of personality, don't depend on you being a fast talker. Because good selling isn't about that. It tends to be about being able to ask questions and listen carefully. But hiring an outside expensive salesperson before you figure out how to sell the product yourself is not good. So we should figure a way out to help you out there. Next question. What do you do if a potential customer asks for a price offer when you only have the business idea? First thing you do is you pat yourself on the back, because that means they're interested. That's great. You couldn't ask for more than that. Then you say to them, I can't take your order yet. Maybe. It depends on what you do. I have occasionally in my life taken orders before I've had products. It really depends on whether or not you know you're going to be delivering or not. As a rule, what you should do is you should get them to commit to placing an order when you're ready to take an order and not before.
Ready to take an order and not before. Because otherwise you'll put yourself under pretty bad situation. Next question.
How can I get capital for starting a biomass?
Capital for starting a biomass.
At the beginning, I need a lot of money, and nobody wants to know what I'm up to. Well, Vlad, one of the questions I'm going to want to do is see exactly how strong a proposal
Vlad, hello. It'd be strong business proposition is. And Marius will probably take a look at it as well, because
So right now, I need to see how strong
I need to see how strong your proposition is. I need to see your business plan. So you're talking about bars capital, bars growth. You're going to have to prove to me that you've got your act together. So it's not something I can answer in a short while. But I look forward to
In order to estimate the market value, I've summed up
In order to estimate the market value, I've summed up the results of my competitors. It's okay. It's okay. No, it's not actually.
the size of the market is everybody who could buy the product, not everybody who has purchased the product. Therefore, you always have a larger market
Equals the size of
actual market in place.
the industry
The sum of all
in
people
place.
selling all products represents the size of the current marketplace.
All people selling all product represents the size of the current marketplace.
It
Does underestimates the potential for sales that a market.
the potential for the market as well. Next question.
What is the potential for the market as well?
There's a large point to it.
Oh,
Right.
Next question.
Take into consideration the VAT effect or the 39,000 VAT. That's very simple. You either do everything without or everything with it. But don't
that's very simple. You either do everything without or everything.
So I recommend you do this. Next. Would you start your company knowing that in the next 2 years your profits will be less than you earn now?
Be less than you earn now.
Fact of the matter is,
Of course that would.
all
Fact
of
of the matter is, all of
businesses that ever started are made less in the beginning, but as an adult.
all of
Before I go on, Marius, I get the impression that what I said on that may or may not be correct. Is that?
the business issue.
I can't hear you. Are you on now? Yeah. Go ahead, Marius.
I can't hear. Are you on the line? You on the line? Yeah. Go ahead, Mars.
Flow should actually, since in the beginning there's gonna be a lot of VAT paid to account the VAT that they need to pay, and take into account the fact the state it's very complicated, or you can get it, but in some time. So I would another.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, everyone, I hope you understood that Senator Marius is directly contradicting what I said, and you should take his advice. Because basically...
Senator Mars is directly contradicting what I said, and you should take his advice.
Maybe just a bit of local specific.
Thank you. Where was I? How do you test prices on market below or above your thought price? 100% below or above? Actually, it depends.
Because basically,
be very careful not to. The number one mistake most entrepreneurs make is under pricing. It is the biggest issue.
or above your thought price. How many percent? It is the biggest issue. Is that you will frequently set a price that you're confident is affordable, and in so doing, you put yourself in a position where you
So I would actually go much higher than you introduce the price and test it out. It really depends
it's
on a lot
bad.
of
So
factors.
basically what you should do is you should,
Who are your competitors? Have you done an honest analysis?
I would prefer somebody sees this product.
You can do all that and you can still say, look, there's still a lot of room around this product price, and I would set high and go down.
So there's, if you can do
Next question. What do you think about Google?
all that, and you can still say, look, Doug, there's still a lot of
I'm not sure how
room around this product price.
So I'll answer a number of questions here. One question could be asking is what do I
And I
think
would set high.
Google AdWords as a sales tool to promote my product? And the answer is, I think a lot of it. I think that SEM, which is essentially what we're talking about, i.e. search engine marketing, where you buy an AdWord and you use it and you pay on when somebody clicks on it to go to your site, is probably the best of the forms of paid advertising you can do, but not as good as doing organic, non-paid advertising such as SEO. Now we're going to talk about this more and more.
What it is doing organic, non-paid advertising such as SEO. Now we're going to talk about this more in March.
If you don't get good click-through, you can improve the AdWord and you can see which language sells. See, the issue is not just the AdWord. If they come to your homepage and then they don't buy, then the issue is not getting the person to the site, it's getting them to the site to the checkout. And so you can understand that that's the issue. You can also directly monitor and control exactly how much you spend and exactly what ratio you have between expenditure and total sale. So actually, I think Google AdWords is using promoting a product very possible, powerful. Now it's possible you're asking a different question, that is, what do I think of
the event? But the short answer is this: is you only pay for promoting Google AdWords on behalf of Google. There's a business in there. People do it all the time. But it wasn't clear to me SEO to support Google, and I'm a big fan of using AdWords to sell AdWords products, but I think they have to be done in a very controlled and analytic fashion. Google for free to Google.
How to promote an international website from a small Eastern European country with minimal cost.
How to promote an international website from a small
How do you promote an international website?
Eastern European country with minimal cost. Gosh, what Eastern European country?
Yes, thank you. Now I know it could be mobile, but not I guess it would be a large Eastern European country.
Eastern European country. Yes, thank you, Marius. I know it could be Moldova, not Romania. I guess it would be a large Eastern European country, of course, Romania. Be that as it may, whichever country it is, just first of all, it doesn't make a difference where you're from.
It's not disadvantage. So it's not the source location that creates your challenge. The challenge is only can you package and deliver in the physical product.
Disadvantage. So it's not the.
But frankly, even that can be outside. So for example, Amazon has a service called Amazon Fulfillment, which is a service that means you can stock your product in Amazon warehouses. Even if you only stock one item in 20 warehouses around the world, we automatically now have deliverability across 120 countries. So
it's not the source.
The bottom line is if you're a
location
and it's a service, as long as it's a .com,
they create your challenge.
Not .ro or .md, you'll be fine. Next question. The next one is kind of a video.
The challenge is only the next one's the next.
Hello, Manuel.
Hello, Emmanuel.
Besides the obvious ones, can you recommend us any sites that provide samples with questions for marketing research?
Okay, so let's start with the first one, Emmanuel. I believe your first question is...
Okay, so let's start with the first one, Emmanuel, is how many people do you have to talk to or encounters or potential customers before you feel that you have an accurate representation?
Okay, so if you're doing face-to-face discussion,
okay, so
and you're working with them on a one-off basis, that's more of a focus group activity.
People, and you're working with them on a one-off basis, that's more of a focus group activity. If you're doing survey,
I think in the former case, you can do
It might
dozens.
be 5 or
In the
10
latter
questions. In the,
case, you have to do dozens.
in the latter case, you have to do. If you're doing in-depth interviews, you can ask hundreds of questions of that person. If you're doing a survey, you
So I think that it really depends on which approach you take.
can basically ask 7. That's as many as most people answer in a survey. So I
That's
think
fine.
that it really depends on which approach you're taking. Well,
people answering those questions, and I think that's the easiest way to do a real yeah, even more so if the market is outside Romania, I would recommend that you find some.
Right, thank you, Manuel.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks, Marius.
Or is it really Right, the next question is, in our business bench, you could expect...
right. The next question is, in our business bench, should include expenses for things that we are.
If you get something for free, the only question is, are you always going to get it for free? And it's rarely the case that you do. So you really have to, if you think you're going to get it for free for a period, line list it, put a 0 in it, and then at a later date when you do think it's going to...
That you do. So you really have to, if you think that you're
in a small company, I want to sell my social...
going to get it for free for a period, line list it,
How can I approach it? I would find the person who has...
put a 0 in it, and then at the
for the big company, and I would cold that. And make sure
want to head.
I used to cold call when I was young, and it's a very, very frightening thing the first time you do it, but it's great training on how to talk. Before we go to the next question, and there's a number of people in chat are saying, Doug, tell people how you use Google to do surveys and focus group research. Okay, I'm not going to do it here, but we will talk about it on March 21st. We noticed by one of my trusty assistants, Alex, out there. He's writing it down with these, and we'll come back to it.
Here, but we will talk about it on one of my trusty assistants, Alex, I'll bet, who's writing it down as we speak, and we'll come back to it.
Nope,
Right.
lost that one. Sorry, guys. If I have a credit line used at the end of the year, how do I highlight it in the cash flow generally? I'm not sure I understand the question. If you have a credit line used at the end of the year, if you borrow, I'm going to guess at what you're asking. If you borrow money,
I'm going to guess at what you're asking.
You used up a credit line with and you owe money, and you have to be paying it back in your January cash flow, and you show a line saying pay back of the following short-term debt. And so each month it's taken out. I'm not sure what else might be the question.
I'm not sure what else might be the question.
Right, next question. Some Marius points out to the beginning of January is equal to the end of December. So what they're actually saying is the end of the end of the fiscal year, not the beginning of the fiscal year. Is that what they're saying now? Who are you talking about? So how would, Marius, just go ahead and answer the question.
Yeah, so basically you need to make sure that your cash flow has a 31st of December position. Take it from there. It should be easy.
Right, so let's go over to my next question.
Next question.
Right.
I didn't. Order for PRs or seek to promote my business. I presume you're asking.
Strikes me as being something of a
non-question.
Yourself or work with a PR firm. I think it is my very personal view that if you can find a small PR firm that is specialized in your area, that knows the term contract basis,
then there's a lot to be said for using a PR firm.
term basis.
Promoting your own business, you should always
be promoting your own alternative. Promotion of a business is more than PR. It's talking to everybody who's possible moment to find a way to get the word out. But the use of a PR firm is.
Next question is a video question. How will they, whoever you are, they disappeared. Oh well. But the question is, the day when they discuss about the decision to start investing extra cash generated by the business. Well, that's a nice problem to have. The answer is sure, cool. If you're asking what to do with the cash you make independent of the business, this is like what's known as a wealth plan. It's how you manage the money you've created for yourself. As a rule, once you've created capital, the first thing you don't want to do is lose it. And so I am very conservative once I've created money on how not to invest it. So I don't invest a great deal of money into risky ventures. I would invest all of it somewhere. I would put it into a business or into shares or into property or into something. But I don't necessarily reinvest it in the same business, and I don't necessarily reinvest it in things of equal risk. I spread my risk across various asset classes. Next question, please. The cash flow should be in Romanian currency or in euro? I don't care what currency it is, as long as you have it in one currency. Next question. How can one overcome the fear of possible failure of starting up a business? Smile. Smile a lot. Smile all the time. I don't know the defense for that one. If you're afraid, if it makes you feel any better, you're in really good company. Everybody's afraid before they start their first business. Everybody worries about failure. I don't have a good answer for that except to say I was pretty much scared before I started the first one. The only reason it wasn't a big deal for me because actually I didn't have a job, so the alternatives weren't particularly hard. If you want to know the truth, I mean, in some ways, there's actually nothing to be afraid of. The worst that happens is the business doesn't work out. But I'll tell you, it's a far worse feeling to go
if you want to know the truth,
I tried to do something I didn't, then I tried and failed.
I mean, there's in some ways there's
question. Adrian, hello.
Actually nothing to be afraid of. The work, your lives, to be careful. We can all see you.
Okay, hello. Is there anybody that gets the customer acquisition cost right in a business plan?
As a rule, people get it wrong because
as a rule, people.
Go ahead.
In a word. Okay. Go. See.
All right, so let me talk about cost of acquisition. I do agree with you that how much it costs to acquire a customer can be...
All right, so let me talk about cost of acquisition. I do agree with you that maybe the defining difference between
most people underestimate is not the per se cash cost, but usually the time cost. Or they underestimate the period of time between inquiry and closing.
Interestingly enough, the thing that most people underestimate cash cost, but usually the time cost. In other words, they underestimate the period of time between inquiry and the cycle tends to be much longer than people ever estimate, because it just time adds up very quickly, and of course that turns into cash cost.
As a rule,
The things you're doing, spending money until you actually have the sale. As a rule, development at times on the delivery, time onto sales, and I look at in order for the business to be successful, is I use it as a variable, not as a fixed estimate, and I read it and check it. In other words, what your goal here to do is you're trying to figure out when you build a it sounds like what's important is how much it costs to acquire a customer and how much time it costs to acquire a customer. So I would expect your business model to highlight for me, this is my critical issue. Now to discuss it, we'll ask ourselves, all right, what do we do to lower cost of acquisitions? What do we do to cheat? What do we do to get advantage?
Okay, and to get accurate. I mean, we're in a fortunate position have a subscription-based service, which is paid monthly or yearly and so on. And we do get 100 new services, new subscriptions actually to go to 500. So things should be pretty similar. Even if it's a new service, it's an enhancement actually. What would be your suggestions to get that more accurate, considering the position we're in?
I think
we get that set on those 100 new subscriptions that we get every month. So we did in an extended manner.
I think that this is going to be the test.
I think that this is going to be the test of the business. In other words, if you're currently getting your new subscriptions,
Each of the marketing vehicles you use, each of the different activities you engage in,
at zero cost, and for each of the marketing vehicles you use, each of the different activities you engage in, your results are almost always going to be more disappointing. I am personally of the view that you need to test and analyze in great detail every single thing you do, and do so in a quite scientific to people. You need to look at the response rate, the open rate, the close rate. If you send emails to people, the same. If you have a seminar, you have the same. Email ads, Google AdWords, any of the things you do to acquire that customer is got to be. What you will find is different types of activity have a vastly different. In fact, you have a very powerful idea, and there's a powerful place or people you can partner as well. I think you should highlight this in your business plan to us. Okay.
In that case, guys,
okay, thank you.
We are down to our last question.
In that case, guys, believe it or not, we are down to our at least last one we have time for today. I appreciate there was some 10 or so questions that we either missed, that we cut off by accident. Last one today is, how can you judge the demand for more expensive, better quality product that did not save money? Excellent question. You're assuming that there is demand, obviously, and I'm also assuming that you are talking directly.
So if in fact you got a series of products at different price points, what you do is you create
What you
layers
create
of
a
price.
layer,
If there's 4 different products selling at 4 different price points, all of which are various.
if there's 4 different products selling at 4 different price points, sort of
then I would say
some are cheaper, X number, this price, Y number, this price, and Z at
something like a pyramid when you measure the number
this
of
price.
units sold,
This
and it should look like a column in terms of
should
the amount of
create
price.
something
The more expensive products extra price offsets the decrease in units, and therefore
the more
you get a
expensive
feel for the
products
strength
extra
of the column. So if that doesn't make sense, I can draw it for you.
of the
Basically,
column.
you need to build a
Sense I can draw it for you, but basically you need to build a pyramid showing units and a column showing the quantity of money at each level, and then you extend it up, you extrapolate from it. So one thing I want to mention is the next call is an evening call. It's on the 5th of time, i.e. Romanian time, i.e. EET, not my time.
Also,
I think I've said it on Flash or something. Also, I'm very impressed that everybody stuck around so long. You guys are great. Thank you very much for the questions. And also, as Nancy is making sure everyone knows, Emmanuel, we can elaborate, we can understand this notion of extrapolating to more post stuff. That's the place for Nancy. Those will be live tonight and going on, and will the other email box. So look forward to talk to you in April. And there you go. Goodbye, everybody.